Hey Scorpio, how's it going? I'm getting the sense that you feel solitary and alone in a group of people. I have this feeling that you're surrounded by, it's going to sound harsh, but petulant fools, mischievous liars, people who have a very hard time discerning right from wrong, or they don't care to. Maybe people who believe propaganda and they let it inform their decisions and their actions, and they don't understand that it is propaganda. And you're feeling like you can't be yourself in their company, and you're deciding to set out and correct your path, or walk a path that is not with these people or this energy, and like set back out on the right path, the path of righteousness that you understand. And you know that being alone with the truth or in the truth is better than being in a rabble of liars. And that's an empowering thought. Three of the signs that I pulled for you, I got the Virgin, the Knight, and the Nurse. These are all very solitary people. The Virgin, of course, has no partner. The Knight, of course, walks alone and has a code of conduct that he follows above all else. Relationships are secondary. He's also empowered to enact justice by himself, to travel around. Well, at least in feudal societies like the Holy Roman Empire, the Arthurian era, and Japanese feudalism, they were empowered to wander alone and to do what was necessary and, live their lives and act in accordance with their code of conduct, which was based on chivalric ideals and so on. And of course, the nurse, works the night shift by herself and holds down the fort and manages an ER by herself, and things like that. Like, there's a lot of solitariness here. And the I Ching hexagram I got was 24, changing to 51. So that's turning back, changing to taking action. And this is that idea of noticing something is wrong. You're in a difficult situation, and you're making the choice to turn back, but alone. Doesn't necessarily mean turning back, but like walking a different path. And it's like too early to make good predictions on whether good fortune or misfortune comes of this. But the thing is good fortune or misfortune is not something to be counted on when we are choosing like the righteous path. A benevolent person acts in accordance with what is proper and doesn't seek to profit. They just do what's right. The quote is, he illuminates the Tao, but doesn't count the merits. He's not looking for accolades. He's not looking for fame or profit or anything like that. Just living in accord with what's proper and appropriate for the situation, living in accord with Tao or the mandate of heaven, living in accord with the code of conduct you've adopted, and living in accord with what brings you good health, physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and separating yourself out from people who would be deleterious to that path, or interfere with it, or lead you astray, lead you on the wrong path toward, things that are not so healthy for you, or things that are not so clear, things that are not so righteous, things that are not rooted in the truth. So whether good fortune or misfortune is going to come of this is not necessary to think about. It's necessary to make the decision based on what your heart is telling you to do. And with this in mind, the Virgin, the Knight, and the Nurse, there is an equal amount of good fortune and misfortune in the lives of such people. In a traditional civilization, the virgins are given authority, religious and spiritual authority, and other, the choices of like the best men available for marriage and things of that nature, that the life of like a Vestal Virgin or someone like that, some pure person who walked a spiritual path of celibacy gets great rewards for it, essentially, and has great responsibility and is revered. And other times, these are the people who are sacrificed to some bloodthirsty god. The knight, the same thing, very, very similar to the virgin, is someone who can gain praise and respect, responsibility, and the ability to shape culture for the better. Other times they die in battle or become enemies of a tyrant and are imprisoned for a very, very long time for trying to uphold righteousness in a corrupt world or in a corrupt society. The nurse as well, very similar to these two. They gain people's respect and compassion and love, and other times they're not treated with respect. They get sick, sometimes being exposed to the people that they help, and they're like equal parts. These are like kind of extreme cases where these people can have extreme good fortune and pretty extreme misfortune. We'll clarify this with the tarot in a second here, but I'm just illustrating that these people do what's right. They don't think about the fortune or misfortune that will come to them. A knight doesn't swear his oath of allegiance because he's going to get paid to do it. He does it because he believes in it. It's that type of mentality here. And having that sort of mentality, knowing what is right, acting on it, regardless of what everyone else believes or what everyone else does, basically you're not a normie. You're different. Or you have a different set of values. You don't value the same thing that most people value. You don't have the same desires. You don't have the same outlook. You don't have the same perspective. You really don't share many or perhaps any of the values of the masses, let's say. And that's not to say, that's not to go too far in either direction. Like, that's not to be like an ego boost where you're set aside and you're special and you're better than others. And it's also not to say that you're crazy or you're worse than others. It's you're just different. You have a different set of values. My friend once told me that I was born either 2,000 years too early or 2,000 years too late. And I get that sense with you. It's like you might be one of those people. And it's important to be yourself, whoever that is, to follow your code of conduct, whatever that is, to follow what you believe is right, whatever that is, and to hell with the social consequences at this time. That's the sort of the vibe I'm getting here. Is it's pretty serious, the situation. Like, you're surrounded by people. I'm getting the sense they're actual people. It could be energies, it could be a part of you as well. But I get the sense this is just like an actual mundane situation where you're just surrounded by people like that are just, it's just not good to be around them. My advice, the advice that I was getting and feeling when pulling all this earlier, is like, avoid propaganda at all costs. Create a space in which you can live where there's no propaganda or anything trying to sway your beliefs. If people ask for your opinions on a certain situation, some cultural, social, political, economic situation or whatever, just withhold your opinion. Don't engage in such conversations. Don't take any, political argument bait. Don't take any bait in any way like that. Don't. I feel like these people just want to persuade you, or they just want to poke fun at people who disagree with them. They want to say mean things about people. They want to laugh at their political enemies and stuff like that. They want to complain about stuff like that. They want to bring you into that complaint and that derision and that just this just this bad vibe of believing propaganda and going with it, talking about it, spreading it further because they think it's cool or fun or truthful or interesting or important. I'm just getting this vibe, just don't don't engage in anything that's even remotely related to propaganda at this time. And just, yeah, just the solitariness might be necessary right now. I know it sucks. I've been a solitary creature my entire life, and it can be difficult, but it can also be very important. So take heart. I understand how this is. This is something I deal with my entire life, and it's not easy, but it is. I don't know if fulfilling is the word, but it's like, it's appropriate, it's proper, it's healthful, it's healthy. What are the healthsome? It's, you know, it's okay. It's okay to do your own thing. It's okay. You got to. You can't ignore that part of yourself. This one's sticking out. Yeah, it's your social status feels difficult. The status you have in life feels like a lot that you've been given. That it feels like, you know, there's a sense of unfairness. There's a sense of being born into something, or being born a certain way, that closes a lot of doors for you. Having a certain belief system or certain code of conduct that, like, basically doesn't allow you to have a lot of social status. You know, in a modern world, especially an industrial, capitalistic or communistic world, like a money-based world, an economic-based world, a machinery-based world, a material science-based world, a logic and rationalism-based world, with strict religious institutions. Whenever there is a sense of spirituality, it's in the form of a strict religious institution. In this sort of world we live in, the social status of a spiritually active person, an occultist, like a real spiritual practitioner, a shaman type person, we have very, very low social status, right? We are on the bottom of the heap. We are considered lunatics, delusional. The people who do believe we're helpful don't think our talents are worth paying for. They don't think it's important, even though what we believe in and do might be truthful. People don't value it very much. It's not like in a different type of society that would be more based on spiritual community, being in harmony with nature. In that type of community, a spiritual person, a shaman, a priest, or what have you, would have very, very high social status. We had, you know, god kings and stuff like that in the past, where spiritual people were given the highest social status. And over time, social status inverts as civilizations change. You know, if you had like the spiritual aristocrats followed by the military, followed by the economic class, followed by the masses, you know, in a militaristic civilization, well, it's the military's on top, then it's the spiritual class, then the economic class, and the masses. And then in a world like ours, we have the economic classes on top, followed by the masses, followed by the military, followed by the spiritual class. And then in like a pure democracy, you have the masses on top, followed by the economic class, followed by the military, followed by the spiritual class. And the inversion of the hierarchy can happen over time and in different ways. And in many of these situations, you know, there's an equal number of permutations where one of those classes is going to be on the bottom and one of those classes is going to be on the top for a long, long period of time. And today, we have had militarism centuries ago. We have had oligarchy, which we have now, and we have had communism and democracy, which we might have in the West in the future. The East had it in the recent past. And in all of those situations, the spiritual class is on the bottom. They're the lowest ranking. It's considered superstition. It's considered unimportant. And when we live this life, it's like, it doesn't feel fair. We're not respected for what we do. Except, I mean, I feel respected in my circles, of course. I'm not I'm not trying to complain. I just mean in general in the greater culture, it's just sort of, it's very difficult. Like, you know, you don't go to college to become a shaman. You don't get like a high paying, you know, $200,000 a year salary working at like a shaman corporation. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff just doesn't exist. There's no option like that today. It's not a thing. You know, the mystery schools of the ancient world don't exist anymore. You know, you could become like an astrologer for the president or something like that, and those, like, you know, like some Gene Dixon type person. But, you know, that's 1 in a billion chance of getting a job like that. And good for Gene Dixon. That was, you know, she was a great lady. But it's very rare, and it feels very unfair. And you are, you know, like your purity can be taken advantage of, people mistaking your kindness for weakness and things like that. And it just feels like too much sometimes. So balancing that out now, like that was sort of the virgin aspect here that I was getting. Being born in a state of purity and having it taken advantage of. You know, this 10 of Wands, this oppression came out on the first symbol here, which was the symbol of the Virgin. That's just feeling like what you like is not liked by society. What you value is not valued by society. The way you act is not approved of by society. What incentivizes you doesn't incentivize anybody else. Your goals are not society's goals. It's that sort of feeling. And that's something I deal with all day, every day since I was a child, is living that life. And yeah, a lot of the time it can absolutely suck. Like, Lord knows, we don't get paid for our skills very much. Whether you're a musician, whether you're another creative person, whether you're a civil engineer, like, you know, a serviceman rather, a shaman, a priest, a spiritual practitioner, an occultist of some kind, like, oh man, the things we value are not valued by very many people. It could feel really awful sometimes. So I think you're just dealing with that awful feeling. But with this night energy here, that is turning it around. Huh, look at that. So we have the Three of Cups coming out. This card says abundance in this deck, coming out on the Knight here. So yeah, the Knight understands everything I was just complaining about. And turns it around, is unbothered by it, right? Says, I don't care. It doesn't feel like oppression to me because I turned it into something that I can do. I became a knight. I swore the oath. And now, you know, to hell with social status, to hell with what other people value. I have a code of conduct and I act on it. I live by it. And so what if I have to, you know, sleep on the cold stone floor of a church every now and again? So what if I am penniless for a lot of the time? It doesn't matter because I have an abundance of like spiritual power, an abundance of knowing that like you're a culture bearer, right? If you have the 4 classes that I was talking about, the aristocrats, the military, the economic class, and the masses, there's a secret extra class that's outside of the class system, and it can kind of be at any one of these levels anywhere, and they're called culture bearers, or people who create culture, people who change culture. Now, if you look throughout history, all of the great men and women who have changed a culture, who have created new ideas and new imaginings that have altered the way a culture works, whether it's a great artist, a great philosopher, a great sage, a great thinker, a great scientist, a great this, that, the other, they generally didn't belong to any of the classes. They kind of found themselves outside of them, somewhere outside of the class system. And you can know today, it's basically like where your money comes from. Our class system is based on where your money comes from in the modern world. If your money comes from like a salary from a corporate job, you're either in the economic class or the masses. If you have like a business, you're probably part of the masses. If your money comes from investments, you're in a different class. You know, if your money comes from taxes and the government, you're in a different class. That's sort of how it works today. And if your money comes from other people who are sort of at your level, or from any kind of class. And it's like, well, what are you doing? You might be like an artist or something like that, or someone who provides some type of special service that a lot of different people value. And you might be a culture bearer. You might not be part of this class system in like a distinct, recognizable way. You're sort of outside of it, within it, around it, through it, inside, like you're sort of mercurial in that way. And that's a hidden opportunity here, is to not feel oppressed by the caste you were born in, or by feeling stuck in a certain social status. Change the opinion here that you have about it by saying, you know what? It's actually kind of freeing, whatever social status I have. Because in my case, if there's an economic collapse, it's not going to hit me too damn hard. When you're near the bottom economically, there's not very far to fall. And then that helps me feel better about it. And, if you don't have a lot of stuff, you're free to go wherever you want. Someone who owns 3 mansions is like stuck with those 3 mansions, and it's like, oh, damn, I have to take care of these properties, and there's just so much stuff to take care of and think about, and oh, do I have my assets in this bank, and where's my yacht? Where did I park that? And like, they just have so much stuff to think about, and it's like, it's cool if that's what you're into, but my God, that just sounds like too much. Like, who wants to think about all that stuff all the time? So you can feel oppressed in any of these social castes, like mo money, mo problems. And you can find within yourself like a freedom to do something with it, to turn this feeling of oppression into a feeling of liberation by saying, you know what, I am different, and that's an asset. So far it may not have felt like an asset, and it may have been socially and economically working against you for most of your life, but now you can say, to hell with that. I have to turn the tables. I can turn the tables. I will walk my own path in my own way, and to hell with the social consequences. And I think when you do that, and you can just feel like you're yourself, and you just choose, I'm just going to be myself, to hell with the consequences, you're going to find doors opening. You're going to find doors that I think you didn't know existed. Our code of conduct, the way we go through world, like I said earlier, closes doors for us a lot of the time. If you have a code of conduct, there are roads you will not walk down because they go against your code of conduct. There are doors you will not open and walk through. Someone could say, oh, if you do this, you can make $1 million a year real easily. And then you think, but I'm going to be doing stuff that goes against my code of conduct. Like, you're asking me to sell my soul for $1 million a year. Like, I'm not going to open that door. And then that door closes, another door closes, another door closes. There's all these doors that you just don't want to open, and it sucks. And then you say like, okay, well, this door I can open. It's not that bad. I can make some money and I can live a normal life. But then when you get into that room, it's like you're surrounded by people who you just don't want to be around. It's like, oh, God damn it. It's like, yeah, I'm making okay money and stuff, but I don't want to frickin' be around these people. And I can't be myself. I can't say what I want to say. I can't do what I want to do. I can't tell the jokes I want to tell because I'll get in trouble. And then you get to a point where it's like, to hell with this and to hell with these people. I've had it. I have to just be myself. And then suddenly like magical doors start opening that you didn't notice before, that you didn't even know existed. And it's like, you are willing to go through this. Like, wow, this door actually doesn't go against my code of ethics. I can do this one. Like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do this. But it only comes after you decide to hell with everyone else, to hell with what people think, to hell with social status. I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. I don't care about good fortune, I don't care about misfortune. We have the Eight of Wands coming out on the Nurse now. Swiftness in this deck. That's interesting. Some of the cards, I'd say about a third of the cards in these deck have words instead of saying like, Eight of Wands or whatever. It says swiftness, oppression, and abundance. Instead of, Ten of Wands, Three of Cups, Eight of Wands. So you have like a 33% chance of pulling one of those cards, and to pull 3 in a row, that's going to be like a 17% chance, something like that. So that's interesting. We have a feeling of oppression changing into a feeling of abundance, and then something swift happening, the nurse. That's help could be coming to you very swiftly in this regard. When you make the change and that change of mentality, you could see a rapid alteration of circumstances. I've noticed that in my own life. There was a situation that I was in where I just couldn't do it anymore. It started out fun, it started out great. I thought it was in line with my values and everything, but after a few years, it stopped being in line with my values, and we attracted a lot of people around us that we built up around us that was like, oh, you know, it's the music industry, you know, there's all sorts of interesting folk out there. And I said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And it basically dropped the bottom out for my life. But I rapidly learned a lot. After I left this situation, I was able to learn quite a bit. I was able to dedicate more time to research. I was able to do a lot of things that I didn't have the time or the willpower to do before. I was able to get back into meditation. I was able to get back into serious spiritual disciplines. I was able to slow down and reconnect with my family. I was able to slow down and reconnect with my old friends, my best friends that I had growing up. I was able to spend more time with them after a few years of neglecting them in those relationships. And while it didn't have a financial payoff, it had a great spiritual and social payoff. I thought it was going to socially ruin me, but it actually improved my social life, and very, very rapidly, within weeks. It was interesting. And it was just because I made one choice. To walk my path and not somebody else's. It felt like other people were paving my road in front of me and telling me, no, turn left. Don't go right. No, don't go straight here. You gotta bear right over here. You don't want to go that way. And I was like, you know what? I do want to go that way, and if you don't want me to go that way, if you don't want to come with me, then fuck yourself. And I sank the boat. It had consequences for everybody, which kind of sucked. It sank the whole ship. It didn't exist without me. But whatever. My soul didn't feel right. What do we got? This one wanted to come out too. So I have the astrological symbol for Pisces and the boat, the moving boat, the ship. See, again, this is that swiftness. This is, you know, the alchemical symbol of sulfur. We got some wind. We got a full sail boat with wind in it. So this is like, this really brings in that Eight of Wands. It's reinforcing this. There will be swift change or somewhere to go. It's fortunate to have somewhere to go, and you will have it with this change of mentality. And you have a properly placed faith in something. Your code of conduct is good. It sucks because our code of conduct is often challenged in society because, like I said earlier, and like I'm sure you're acutely aware of, is a lot of the time what we value is not valued by society. And having good, strong, ethical, moral values and principles is seen as stupid and laughable. You know, that whole nice guys finish last bullshit that people say. And it's true in our society. Nice guys do finish last because nobody's nice. Everybody's selfish. They just care about money and their own gain, their own social status. They do what's necessary to gain these things. And people who have values, literally like any values, are laughed at because most people don't have values, like period, not even bad ones. They just don't have any. And then they're like on autopilot. They're like robots that just do what they're told. And when you have values and you express them and live by them, you're punished by everybody else. They laugh at you, they think you're stupid, they think you're weird, they don't hire you for the job, and so on and so forth. But your faith is not misplaced in whatever that is. It's properly placed. And your values are good values, and they bring you spiritual upliftment, which that's how you can know, you can judge a tree by the fruit it bears. And you can't hold up your values to society's reaction of them, because it's too elusive and unstable. You can't really use like your success or failure in society to determine how good or bad your values are. In the modern world, your values could bring you success financially, or they could bring you ruin financially. It's not, you know, the situation is very fluid and changeable all the time. And so you can't judge your own values using that as a mirror. Sometimes you can, but usually you can't. In this case, you just have to sit with yourself and judge your values yourself. And when you do that, when you look within and be like, are my values right or wrong? You'll find that they are right. And you'll stop using society to tell you whether or not they're right or wrong. Because what society says about most things is usually irrelevant. Whether it's correct or incorrect, it's usually irrelevant. It's a lot like a dream world out there. It's like an illusion. And you can allow your values to continue pushing you forward. There is nothing wrong with doing that. In fact, it's probably the right move. And I think when you have that mentality of, you know what, it's my duty to do this. Remember, this came out on the Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. You know, it's like you will be empowered with some type of authority. It's unclear what type. It could be real social, economic, or political authority, or it could be spiritual authority, authority over yourself. But it will work out. It will be a different type of power that's not governed by society. Again, there's different types of power, right? Like strength, military power, bureaucratic power and legalism, economic power and money. And then there's that tricky fourth one that a lot of people don't really like to talk about, but charisma, charismatic power. And that comes from the Greek word of charism, like a chrism, right? Like the title of Christ comes from this Greek root. And it means a spiritual authority. And that's, you know, people who have great charisma have a power to sway people, to gain followers, and to gain respect just by being themselves, because they are like a conduit, like a channel of spiritual energy. There's a chrism on them, a blessing, an anointment. It means an anointment. People throw around the word charisma a lot without really knowing what it means. They just think it's like, oh, it's you're handsome and you can speak well, you're charismatic. What it really means is you are spiritually anointed. And that's a form of power. And rare indeed are the people who have it, although there are many. I say rare relatively in a world of 7.5 billion people. So there still are plenty of charismatic, truly charismatic people out there. And the most charismatic people are the ones who go their own way and do their own thing and say, to hell with what society wants. I know what's right for me, and I'm going to act on it. And that opens up the sort of channel, the chrism. You gain the anointment, and then you become like a powerhouse, like a lighthouse that suddenly now you're radiating out. And people notice it. People didn't notice it before because you were surrounded by darkness going along to get along. And then you say, screw this. And everyone's like, what? Why is this person gone? What's he doing? What's she doing? They're not here anymore. They went their own way. And then suddenly you're like this radiating star. And it's based on something that you have faith in, something that you believe in. And it's going to carry you forward here. So you be you. Thanks for being you. And just keep being you. And don't be anyone else but you. So Scorpio, I think that's where the Oracle and I are going to leave it for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I always appreciate you stopping by. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you next time.